This conference will now be recorded.
Great, thank you. Welcome. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alyssa Leonard, the current board chair, and I'd like to welcome you all to the 112th annual meeting of Chevy Chase Village. Before we begin, I want to call your attention to this third flower arrangements in our reception area and the meeting room were provided by the Garden Club of Chevy Chase and sourced from yards in the village. So thank you to the Garden Club. It's customary at the annual meeting for the chair to provide an oral overview of where the village stands, as well as highlight some of our activities over the previous year and what to expect in the year ahead. The state of the village continues to be awesome. We are grateful and aware that we are among the most fortunate people on earth. Last year, board member Bob Goodwin moved to the Eastern Shore, and we approved Saul Goodman to fill the vacant term on the board. He was reelected by acclamation this year, along with me and Nancy Waters. Other board members are Gary Crockett, Linda Willard, and David Winstead. We're all volunteers. The board, the staff, and the committees have had a busy year keeping abreast of several Maryland legislative matters, and we want to thank board members Lou Morseberger and Saul Goodman for taking the lead on fully understanding and monitoring the More Housing Now Act, the Starter and Silver Homes Act, the Bring Back Main Street Act. Our zoning attorney in these matters is Michelle Rosenfeld, and we're fortunate to have such a pro looking out for us. This spring, for a short period of time, we also had added a lobbyist we shared with some other municipalities, Richard Tabato. My written comments give an overview of how the worst case scenarios from those legislative proposals that might have affected our limited zoning authorities did not come to fruition. So happily, another issue that came up was when Montgomery County Public Schools presented a boundary study that might have adversely affected our village community. But in the end, the village was eliminated from the proposed school reassignments. So we'll continue to monitor every county and state level issue that presents itself. For example, we have ongoing negotiations with Pepco over ownership and maintenance of our street lights. And we are very well served by our attorney, Sue Ellen Ferguson, on this matter and so many other matters. And of course, what's going to be going on in Friendship Heights is really important to us. You'll hear later in the meeting from the ad hoc committee chairman, Jonathan Halpern, on the county's Friendship Heights sector plan that will affect, among other things, the rezoning of Saks Fifth Avenue and its parking lots. Around the village, we always grapple with stormwater management. This past year, most notably, we dealt with a deteriorated Primrose Street between Connecticut and Brookville Road. We also trudged away on our planned rehabilitation of the buffer area that will start construction in the near future. The buffer area refers to the pedestrian right-of-way that forms the western border of the village at Belmont Avenue and Grove Street. And right now I want to highlight our amazing and excellent staff. First of all, we're so lucky to have the continued long-term service of our village manager, Shana Davis Cook. Thank you. This past year, former Public Works steward William Abernathy retired after 30 years of service to the village. We know we're really fortunate to have a history of long-serving employees. In fact, I now have a certificate of appreciation for Police Sergeant Eric Tiedemann for his 30 years of service to the village. And he's coming up. Thank you so much. And a very special thanks to the members of our public works staff, directed by Director Anthony Young, for their snow clearing efforts following the record-breaking Snowcrete event in late January. I know my car was encased in Snowcrete for about a week, and it was really difficult stuff to deal with. Our Public Works group is great. In fact, coming up soon is National Public Works Week from May 17th to 23rd, and this will be a great opportunity for residents to acknowledge the efforts of our 6-person Public Works staff for their diligence and hard work during the year, including tree plantings, leaf collection, bulk trash collection, and snow removal, and sidewalk fixing. Okay, now for the money topic. You can talk to our board treasurer, Gary Crockett, for any questions, but the village received a clean audit for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. We began the current 2026 fiscal year with reserve balance of over $20 million. And we expect to end the current fiscal year with the village's reserve balance totaling $19.8 million. The proposed fiscal 2027 budget reflects an anticipated drawdown from these reserves by approximately $2 million. To end my oral report, we would like to honor the village residents we lost since our last annual meeting, and after I've read their names, have a moment of shared silence in their memory. Peter Clark of Montgomery Street, Gary Cohen of Cedar Parkway, Carol Coffin of Hesketh Street, Anthony Cullinane of Summerfield Road, Christopher Dunn of Newland Street, R. Scott Faley of Primrose Street, Claire Gilliam of Cedar Parkway, Les Goldman of Quincy Street, Bruce Hyman of Grove Street, Ralph Stevens of Magnolia Parkway, Ann Sirota of Grove Street, John Talbot of Cedar Parkway, Mary Thompson of West Kirk Street, and Peggy Treadwell of Grove Street. Thank you. As always, we are grateful to live in Chevy Chase Village. We're so grateful for the staff, for the honor of being on the board, for all the volunteer commission and committee members, for all the residents, and for our neighbors and friends. Thank you. So the next thing on the agenda is a report from our village manager.
Thank you very much. So I can't read and see your faces with the same pair of glasses, so bear with me here. Good evening and welcome to those of you who are here in our lovely village hall and to those who are attending remotely. And I want to send a special welcome to the new residents joining us for their first annual meeting. 24 new families, in fact, chose to call the village home in the last year. And I hope this evening gives you a greater sense of the community that you have moved into. I'm honored to present my 17th annual report as village manager to the community. And I want to begin my comments this year by thanking the members of the Board of Managers for their continued trust in me to serve as your village manager. I recognize that I am entrusted not only with the day-to-day management of our government and the community that it supports, but I'm entrusted with the care and keeping of this historic building and with the professional well-being of the 27 men and women that we employ. I assure you that I do not take yours and the community's trust for granted. So thank you. Our small but mighty staff show up every day and give their all to this community and to its residents. This dedication was certainly exemplified by our public works staff as they managed the unprecedented Snowcrete event at the end of January. As was noted, this was backbreaking and arduous work, but not only did our small crew manage through, they did so while remaining positive and tackling various challenges that arose along the way. I'm sure you'll all join me in thanking Department Director Anthony Young, Supervisor Luis Galindo, and department staff Richard Graves and DeAndre Moore for their hard work throughout this past winter. I also want to thank our administrative and constituent services assistant, Ms. Jennifer Young, for compiling a resource list of individuals to assist residents with snow clearing. This list was provided to numerous residents who were grateful for access to these resources when they needed them most. Transitioning to another arduous winter task, last week ended the state's legislative session, during which the board advocated to preserve our existing land use authority and in turn the residential character of the village. My focus as village manager is to ensure that the board has the tools and the information that it needs to advocate for residents and that residents are well informed so that you know how and when to ensure that your voices are heard. As noted by Chair Leonard, we are relieved that our advocacy alongside municipalities and counties across the state was successful in thwarting preemptive zoning legislation, and we are well prepared should similar legislation return next session. Coupled with our advocacy at the state level, we are also laser focused on local changes. With the closure of the short-lived Amazon Fresh and the upcoming closure of Saks Fifth Avenue, the future retail landscape along the village's western border will look very different in the years ahead. The village board has put together a committee with a talented group of resident volunteers to monitor and engage with key stakeholders as the county revises the Friendship Heights sector plan, the planning and development guide for this area. You will hear this evening from the chair of the advisory committee, but I want to stress the importance of resident engagement during the sector plan process. The county needs to hear how village residents want to see Friendship Heights shaped for the future. In the interim, while we don't yet know the future of the soon-to-be closed Saks site, we are in discussion with the property owners to ensure security of the building and surrounding parking lots following the store's closure. Over the past year, we worked on various other matters impacting village residents, publicizing a virtual public meeting hosted by our District 18 delegation for residents to learn about WMATA's elimination of its bus routes along Connecticut Avenue south of East West Highway. We circulated information about county schools proposals that could have reassigned some village households to different middle and high schools. We advocated for the state to paint "Don't Block the Box" striping on Connecticut Avenue where it intersects with Quincy Street to ensure that residents can enter and exit their block, and for the state to address a broken storm drain in the Connecticut Avenue right-of-way at West Kirk Street that had created sinkholes in the adjacent grass strip. Installed a planting plan to increase the tree buffer along Oliver and Belmont, abutting the Saks Fifth Avenue property. Implemented a stormwater management solution along the Brookville Road sidewalk north of Newland Street. Began interior painting of our historic village hall. Continued advocacy to achieve municipal ownership of the streetlight network and finalized an inventory of those streetlights with Pepco to ensure that the village is only paying for streetlights that shine on village rights of way. We engage with representatives from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the management of the demolition and rebuild of their church site that was severely damaged by fire a few years ago. We've undergone extensive sidewalk maintenance with contractor support to supplement the ongoing efforts of our public works staff. And we work with Chevy Chase Club management to address employee parking saturating village streets. We also continued a robust slate of community events, including the popular Spring into Summer Party and Food Truck Night, July 4, Halloween and holiday parties, paper shredding and quarterly blood drives, an inaugural gingerbread house holiday event in partnership with the Community Relations Committee. That was my personal favorite. And this spring, we're holding donation events for clothing, household items, and furniture together with Goodwill of Greater Washington and a wider circle. These events are intended to foster a sense of community where families can make lasting memories and opportunities to give back to others in need. We implemented a new battery drop-off program here at the Village Hall, whereby residents can bring in their old batteries for safe disposal. And in a few weeks, we'll hold a possum playtime at Brookville Road Park, where dogs and their owners are invited to join us for some unleashed fun at the afternoon of May 7 from 4:30 to 6. Many thanks to Jennifer Young for her hard work planning and managing these many events. We continue to maintain best practices for fiscal management, as evidenced by the clean audit we received to end fiscal year 25. And this is due in part to the diligence of Village Finance Director Dimitri Protos, who is joining us on the virtual feed, assisted by our Director of Municipal Operations, Jacqueline Parker. Our Permitting and Code Enforcement Coordinator, Aurelio Baca Ashard, continued his administration of our permitting operations and his patrols of the village to ensure that both residents and contractors operate in compliance with both the code and issued village permits, a summary of which will begin to show on the screen and will also be posted online. So in the year ahead, the village staff will present recommended updates to the village's fees and fines schedule, which has not been updated in over 20 years, as well as comprehensive revisions to the village's sign ordinance. We will implement enhanced internet service here in the village hall to provide greater connectivity to hall users. We will redevelop the village's website to ensure it is modern and meets federally mandated requirements for accessibility for those with physical impairments. And we will look forward to starting construction on the long-awaited buffer area drainage project to restore this green space to its former glory. Reseal the Brookville Road sidewalk, install new landscaping in the median on West Kirk at Connecticut, and completion of stormwater remediation on West Melrose north of Laurel Park. These projects will be overseen by Ms. Jacqueline Parker. So as I think you can see, we've been a little busy and we continue to be quite busy preserving the village's legacy and preparing for changes ahead. So as you hear me say every year at the end of these comments, the best way to stay informed, subscribe to the village's blast emails. So I'll end my report by welcoming residents to contact the staff here at the Village Hall, whether there is a question that you need answered or an issue that needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have a report on public safety with Chief John Neske.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to start with some dry statistics, and they're pretty good except for one category. So residential alarms went up by 16%, but that did not equate to burglaries. It was just oftentimes it's a faulty wire or a mistake by a homeowner, user error. Our larcenies went down 27%. So we're starting to lock doors. We're not completely there yet, but we're getting closer. Doors and keys are still a bit of a stickler here for us, but evidently we either got lucky or a little bit better. So they went down 27%. The flip side of that, everything that goes down, there's usually a correlation of something that's going to go up. Auto thefts, we got hit very hard last year, along with the rest of the county and the area. They're up 120%. So went from 2 in 2024 to 8 in 2025. Some of them were, forgive my phrase, legitimate thefts. Others were keys left in the ignition and gifts. So we still need some messaging on that, but that was our worst category. Another thing that went up that I was happy to see is traffic citations, warnings, and equipment repair orders. They were up 16%, up to 580. So the officers are out there, they're doing traffic enforcement, they're doing traffic stops. What I'd like to note is up 16% from last year, up 40% from 2023, which I think is a huge jump and again, a huge testament to the work that the officers are doing. House checks, we had 31,530 house checks. So if you're out of town, you're and you put in for a house check, your house is checked multiple times a day. So let's keep doing that and make sure that program stays healthy and keeps working. You'll see that by some of our burglary numbers. So let's keep that going. As far as activities, we continue to provide self-defense classes. We have the women's self-defense class. We did a senior self-defense class through Chevy Chase at Home. That was well attended. I'm also going to send an officer out to get car fit, actually 2 officers, get trained in car fit. Car fit is a program where it aids senior drivers, and you basically go through and you make sure that their car is set up for them. Seat belts in the right alignment, Um, Oftentimes, sometimes when you see a senior driver, all you see are knuckles and foreheads through the window. Make sure that the seats align right, mirrors are good, and it's set for optimal driving for them. Once we get them trained, we'll probably partner again with maybe Chevy Chase at Home, have an event where people can come in and have their cars checked and make sure they're aligned for them. So Eric, he's a humble guy. He knocked 5 people down getting out of here as fast as he could. But I do want to state that I appreciate him. He was one of the people when I first got here, made sure that I knew the lay of the land. If I had a question, I could go to him. Another person that was instrumental is, and continues to be instrumental, is Lieutenant De Silva. I always call him Tino. So he is the jack of all trades. I was like, who's the IT guy? He goes, me. Who's the camera guy? Me. Okay, who orders uniforms? Me. And so he's another guy who works till 2 in the morning. Call him at 10, he picks up the phone. Call him at 11, he picks up the phone. And we do call him at 10 and 11. I was like, when do you sleep? Well, I get 2 hours here, 2 hours there. So probably a reason he doesn't go out in the daylight. I think he might be a vampire. One of the things that I talk about these two and then some more later, because I want you to understand what a fantastic staff you have, not in the village period, but especially on the police department and the dispatch side. It's tough for an organization to have everybody pull in the same direction, but that's exactly what these guys do. And it's always to help and serve the residents. A couple of examples, we had an accident on Brookville. Somehow, don't know how this woman did it, but she went from a dead stop, got enough torque that she hit the curb, flipped over on the side, knocked the fence down, knocked a tree down. She was transported, which she was okay. But I go out to the scene, and there's Officer Timmerman. He's picking fences up, trying to lay them up. He's making sure that this resident's yard is put back together. He's sweeping up glass. He's making sure that the tow truck driver is putting solvent down over the fluid that's spilled. He even went so far as a resident comes up. Well, no, she was just outside the village, but we'll count her as a resident. We're talking. She's like, yeah, there's a convex mirror right here that's supposed to show the intersection, but it's not lined up right. Well, I said, before I could say, well, we'll have to get someone to take a look at it, Jamie's out there with his broom, poking it. Is it okay now? Is it okay now? Yeah, great. And I was like, oh, wait, there's a big branch here that I can't get up. And hand to God, 5 minutes later, our public works director is out there with his pickup truck, loading that branch up. So that is the kind of, when I say everybody's pulling in the same direction, that's what I'm referencing. We found a backpack. We found property. These guys, they will spend an hour trying to locate the owner of that property. That's how thorough they are. Last fiscal year, I asked for some seed money. A couple of the officers wanted to build just a little fitness area down at the public works side of the public works bin. Because they work 12-hour shifts, so it's kind of hard to get, a gym workout in before or after if you got to go home. So the board was gracious enough to give us a little bit of starter money. We put the word out. Residents donated a Peloton bike. My gym doesn't have a Peloton bike. So we got a Peloton bike, we got a treadmill, and Officer Hernjack went down there and started moving everything and set up the squat rack. And now I know the public works guys have been using it, and a couple of my guys have been using it, and it's open to all the staff. But that's what I mean when everybody ready to dirty their hands up, get down and make things happen. Our dispatchers are wonderful. A couple highlights for them. We had a windstorm, a couple months ago maybe, knocking trees down left and right. The officers are out there calling out tree locations. Public Works is scrambling to clear them as we get them, dragging things out. And you've got, I think Michael was here by himself, and he's taking the information from the dispatcher or from the radio. He's answering all the calls because residents are plugged in. Hey, I got a tree down here. I got this. I got that. Managed it all wonderfully. The last storm that we have, we just recently implemented GPS services in the vehicles, so the dispatchers were able to give residents real-time information on where the plow is. Didn't make them happy, but they knew where the plow was. Same with leaf collection. We could give you real-time information on where the leaf collection is. I want to thank the Public Safety Committee, who has been awesome. I run my budget through them before I present to the board. They put out a letter about locking your doors and safety. And I'm guessing your letter did something that my voice couldn't, because again, our larcenies dropped. So they're a great partners, and we're very happy to work with them. I want to thank Shannon, who's amazing to work for, and the board for all your support. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we have a financial overview by our board treasurer, Gary Crockett.
I want to start with an apology. I know you're going to be disappointed, but I do not plan to go line by line down the budget that we are adopting tonight. I'm just going to say a few things. First of all, just in general, the village, as Alyssa sort of indicated, we're in an enviable position. Opinions do vary about what's going to happen to the economy in the next year or so. But if it turns out that there is some economic storm of some kind, we're in a very good position to weather it. We've got investments that amount to almost 3 years of our expected budgets. And as the state law requires, those assets are all in really boringly safe assets. Now, a disadvantage to being in an enviable position is that sometimes others might want some of it. And about 6% of our revenue comes in the form of county tax duplications. And what that means is that the county reimburses towns who provide services that otherwise the county would have to do. So they at least partially subsidize those activities. And in our case, probably the police, the fact that we have a police force is the biggest example of that, but there are a few other things as well. So that's what a tax duplication is. Now, just earlier this last week, the county council president, who is looking for ways to plug budget holes in the county, suggested that the county should quit making tax duplication payments to municipalities. Now, our District 1 representative thinks that this won't pass, but we are keeping a sharp eye on it. There was another kind of departure from business as usual this year, and that's the closing of SACs. And by this year, I mean the upcoming fiscal year. For those who don't know, all of that SACs area, including the parking lots, is part of Chevy Chase Village. And it is the only I lost my, oh yes, I'm sorry. It's the only commercial property that is in the village anywhere. And we received payments from them in kind of an inventory tax that amounted to $110,000 or so for the past few years. And that amounts to about 1.5% of our budget. Now, in the short term, that revenue is just gone. I mean, they're closing it down, and there's no revenue being made anywhere in that. So we're losing that small amount of money. In the longer term, it could be a financial benefit to the village, depending on how it is redeveloped. For example, if it turns out to be mixed residential and commercial space, as it very well might be, we'll suddenly have some new taxpayers in the village. And that's another thing we're keeping a sharp eye on. Finally, I want to say a few words about the budget that we're adopting tonight. And again, I'm not going to go But by my quick count, there are 264 separate line items in the budget, many of which require some non-trivial research to project how much they're going to cost in the upcoming fiscal year. The other board members and I do review that budget, but all of the real work is done by our village manager, our police chief, our finance director, and the rest of the village staff. And I want to thank all of them for their thorough and professional work in the preparation budget that they've done for yet another year. Thanks.
Thank you. So now we can go to the commission and committee reports. A lot of them will be written reports on the website, but some are going to be some oral reports. And the first one will be the ad hoc Friendship Heights sector plan. Jonathan Halpern is the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa. Good evening, all. Thanks for having me back for another presentation on this topic. I think I have a maximum of 10 minutes, so I have 7 points that I want to raise for you all. So this is not so much based on the survey that we did some months back, but more leaning toward recommendations that will be coming to the board with the next board meeting. So as a brief, quick update, last week, we did have a very, I think everybody would agree, more successful perhaps than we anticipated it would be, which was the 3 core stakeholders to the Friendship Heights sector plan, particularly the SACS part of that, which was the president of the land company, the head of the planning department that is focused on this, and our committee. So the 3 core stakeholders, I think, a very fruitful conversation. I think everybody at that meeting agreed with that. So just a quick note on the geography. I mean, it's been mentioned, but right, the part that we're talking about is from the north corner, north end of the Saks parking lot down to where Amazon Fresh used to be and the metro station. So that's what's in play here. So geographically, on the one hand, that's very much one side of the village. What happens on that one side of the village has significant implications long-term for the whole character and spirit of the village. So I think it is important to the folks living on that side of the village, but also important for everybody else in the village because it will have impact, precedent, et cetera. Excuse me. So geography one. Second, we've gone into this with a spirit of collaboration. I think everybody that are the stakeholders is keen not to repeat what happened with the prior sector plan. If it becomes something that is fraught, we will deal with that. That may happen, but at the moment, I think we've been successful at trying to figure out what collaboration really means in terms of 3 stakeholders, somewhat different priorities, but finding common ground where it exists and recognizing that if we're going to really collaborate, not everybody's going to get everything they want. It's not going to happen. So we've also, that meeting I mentioned last week, we have a process going now. I think there's 1 or maybe 2 more meetings like that coming up. So the county has been receptive to having a conversation now. So that's been a useful and somewhat unusual but beneficial role for the county to play. So it's been sort of mentioned, but the parking lot's not going to stay parking lot. It's just not. There's questions of timing. There are very important questions of what goes where in that space. But parking lot on Wisconsin Avenue, close to a metro station, it's not going to stay the same. And we should remember, I think, and we'll talk a little bit in the recommendations about this, but we're actually the entry point from the district into the county. It's not Bethesda. It's actually us. So that role has leverage, I think. But we have to figure out what happens in that parking lot. Or, speaking of the parking lot, the situation with Saks, more complicated than the Amazon Fresh situation. I won't go into a lot of the details, but we have spent a fair bit of time trying to sort through exactly what the structure of various pieces of that are, and what's at play presently, given that Saks is going bankrupt, et cetera. It is not totally clear. We believe that there is still an effort underway to find alternative folks to put in there. Status of that, we don't know. Likely outcomes also, we don't know. But the land company is pretty clear that they, the tenant is still responsible for figuring out what they want to do with it. But we will talk to this again in the recommendations. But one of the things related to Saks as a retail establishment is that one of the things we did learn in the survey work is that folks in the village want community retail shops, something that people can walk to, get to, and have purchase what is needed to be purchased. For that to work, it has to become a destination that people want to go there to do something other than park their car. So that fundamental notion of being a destination can raise some alarms, but it also is necessary if we're going to have retail shops. And again, so fifth point, we'll come back with recommendations that if retail is wanted, which it is, you have to have customers. So how do you get customers, right? You have to either have a place to live, or their offices, or there's some reason to go to the place where those retail establishments are. I mean, we've all seen their various retail places close. So that is something that there's going to have to be discussion and compromise around. How do you get the shops? How do you get the pedestrians, and the pedestrians without their cars? So we will talk to the question of how that works, so that the village does not become a parking lot for the new retail shops. The other word that we're using, and I think it speaks to the idea around collaboration of figuring out how to use the space that is on the border between the village and Friendship Heights sector as a transitional space, not a, and I'm going to use the word carefully, but a walled in or walled out space. I mean, I understand why the wall is there and et cetera. Over time, though, how to take and not limit, but actually expand the culture and character of the village toward Wisconsin Avenue and figure out what that transition looks like, I think is the core challenge. And I think all three of the core stakeholders get that. That is absolutely central. Green space, another area we'll have specific recommendations. Green space can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. That's not fully sorted out. What use is the green space put to? Is it an amenity related only to the heights and density of other built infrastructure? Not clear. There's the possibility, we will address this in the recommendation. I don't know if we will actually say we suggest that the board proceed with this, but we will address the possibility of maybe there's it's an overstatement, but a greenway, if you will, from the northern corner of Saks down to the park behind where Amazon Fresh was, Western Grove. Is it possible to connect that in some way that brings people in, bicycle riders, families, et cetera, so there's something that can happen between those things other than a parking lot? We'll come back to that. That's a maybe. It's a maybe. Okay. 6, processes. So we're going to call out for the board's attention. Some of this is obviously known, but there's 3 really key things going on. And they're not the same, although some of them are interwoven, which is the planning timeline. Right? That continues to move around a little bit in terms of when they're going to have visioning, or now they're going to have recommendations or engagement or presented to the planning department. So that's a complicated and not totally cast in stone timeline, but we have to be very careful to take advantage of this collaborative system that we've set up such that our input comes prior to a lot being on paper and designed and done and drawn, and we're just reacting as opposed to trying to contribute and participate now. Zoning, I'm not going to go very far into zoning. It's a very complicated issue. I'm not an expert in it. But one thing that as you all see materials coming around that I've been cautioned about, I think is really important, is that the visuals are important to understand the conceptual, the framework, the intent, the general idea and orientation. It is, however, the text that gets written that becomes what 15 years maybe from now is actually referred to and sets the actual concrete specifications of what can and can't be done. So that's a really important point moving forward. Known to everybody, these processes, the third one, this is not a politically neutral sort of issue. Shocking, right? So we've got a county election coming up. So this is a politicized issue, and we should be aware of that and how it plays out and who's saying what relative to what somebody else, blah, blah, blah. Okay, last point. Sort of obvious, but not what's always happened, which is if we can form alliances with different organizations, and it doesn't have to be a municipality, it could be Heights, could be a bicycle group, it could be all kinds of different folks, but that there's a group of organizations that have political implications behind something that we think is advantageous to the village and will work for the other stakeholders as well. Forming those kinds of alliances rather than presenting a list of performing arts center, swimming pool, that kind of stuff. I think that will do us better than that kind of a list. That's what I got. If there's time or inclination for questions, I'm happy to take them, or I'll go sit down.
Thank you. Thank you very much. No, really appreciate it. Thank you. Next is the Public Safety Committee report. Mel.
Hi, thanks, Alyssa. We have a written report that we've submitted, but we just wanted to take 2 minutes and introduce ourselves. My name is Mel Anku, and together with Meredith Griffin, we are the new co-chairs of the Public Safety Committee. And the village is very privileged to have its own police department led by the very capable Chief Netsky. And on behalf of the Public Safety Committee, we wanted to thank the chief for his steady presence and his really deep commitment to our community. Thank you, Chief. We're really just focused right now on 3 things. And one is the committee wants to support our police department. We want to be a bridge between our neighbors and the police department. And we also want to help keep our neighbors informed about relevant public safety matters. And so this is what the committee is focused on. And one last thing, August 4th is National Night Out. And this is something that is celebrated across the country where neighborhoods get together with local public safety officials. It's about building community. It's about building trust. And the Public Safety Committee wants to make National Night Out a signature village event. And so you're going to be hearing from us about it. We're really focused on it. Next year, Shana, I hope it's in your report when you talk about all the great things that the village did. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, next is the Energy and Environment Committee, or Environment and Energy.
Sarah Cooper, longtime resident, first time chair and presenter. It's going to be a little bit longer than that, but I will skip over some things that I think have already been covered and addressed. Our report is also posted online, and I'm just going to read over some of the highlights. Some of our main activities from last year or this past year: emphasis on recycling and upcycling. Members of the committee continue to collect bicycles, used bicycles. Since 2020, village residents, I'm sorry, can you guys see me okay? Okay. Village residents have continued to contribute to the over 1,000 bicycles that have been donated, refurbished, and provided to those in need of transportation, joy, a means to rebuild their life, and more, located throughout Montgomery County and beyond. Special thank you goes out to the residents who've supported this and spread the word. Also continuing collections for used sporting goods for Level the Playing Field. battery or electric powered landscaping equipment, snow blowers, and other items that can be refurbished for use and donated to individuals in need. Also worked on the updated recycling reminders and guidelines mailers. Committee members worked with the village staff to update the guidelines and reminders that were sent out in Q4 2025 instead of new toter decals. Although committee members still observed some recycling noncompliance, substantial sorting at the single stream recycling plant make full compliance enforcement unnecessary. And Gary, you'll be glad to know, I think we've finally put to rest the oops tag. So we're done with that. And though we were not a driver of this, we love the new battery collection and the collection of reusable furniture and collecting for Wadder Circle. Anything that gets residents to think a little bit more about things before they just throw them in the trash is what we try to encourage. Tree canopy decline working group. In response to declines in tree canopy cover in the village, the Environment and Energy Committee convened a working group with other relevant village committees, the village arborists, members of the village staff to determine the major causes of tree canopy loss. The working group evaluated data provided by the Research Division of the Montgomery County Department of Planning on trends in tree canopy cover in the village starting in 2018. This data confirmed a declining trend in tree canopy cover since that time. Among the main causes are home remodeling, expansion of impermeable surface area, leading to tree removal, aggressive pruning by utility companies, climate change, including changes in precipitation patterns and more intense weather, disease, pest damage, and natural aging of trees. The committee's contribution to the crier, Can I Recycle It?, has been repurposed to be green tip in order to address environmentally friendly and sustainable living tips, including and beyond just reinforcing recycling guidelines. For example, ice melt contamination in waterways, holiday decor recycling, and other eco-friendly holiday celebration tips. Continued vigilance over the banned use of gas-powered landscaping equipment. We have some committee members that are particularly active in pointing this out, as well as just generally continuing to try to spread education on that. As well as we had some of our committee members participate in compost crew film footage in order to promote the ease of composting. New and continuing concerns for this year. Water quality of the Little Falls branch. Due to salt contamination during winter months, animal waste during warmer weather, and all-season ground pollutants. As Shana mentioned, environmental impacts of the Starter and Silver Homes Act of 2026. Similar to the highly controversial Attainable Housing Initiative introduced by members of the Montgomery County Council last year, the Maryland bill introduced this year seeks to prohibit, well, I don't need to tell you what it prohibits because you know that, provisions relating to lot size, dimension, setbacks, requirements, and lot coverage. Why this matters to us, if adopted, this could produce the same environmental impacts feared with the Attainable Housing Initiative. Committee members support the village's effort and collaboration with other municipalities in opposition to this act. Diminishing tree canopy and opportunities to restore. Although the village maintains a robust tree planting program in the public right of way, very low reforestation rate on private property along the more mid-canopy trees being planned has resulted in ongoing attrition of the village's mature tree canopy. The committee member, Maria Hatziolis, and village member, Saul Goodman, have been working with the Montgomery County Department of Planning to identify incentive programs offered by the county for residential tree planting that complement the village's own program to encourage greater planting of canopy trees on private property. This is a work in progress, and in addition to such incentive programs, will require greater outreach and awareness on behalf of village residents about the benefits of trees and repercussions on the environmental quality and human health resulting from their loss. Committee will continue to promote greener practices, including recycling, composting of yard and food waste, pesticide-free landscaping, biodiversity-friendly gardening, and renewable energy through education and outreach. The Environment and Energy Committee would like to acknowledge, as we already discussed earlier, the passing of our residents, but in particular, committee member Ralph Stevens, and honor his contributions. Ralph championed the environment with an emphasis on native species in our reforestation efforts. His call on village residents and management to place a priority on protecting the natural habitat and biodiversity we enjoy in the village made him a value member of both the environment and the committees, and the tree committee, I'm sorry. And with that, happy Earth Day, and for all residents, let's keep it green.
Thank you so much.
Parks and Green Spaces Committee, Susan Dixon.
I promise to be short. I said that to Gary as I came in. What's the protocol? And at this time of night, I'd say brevity. I have submitted a more detailed report, and hopefully the board will have an opportunity to look at it. I want to start off by just acknowledging Jackie Parker, who we work with very closely. And Jackie, you've been a pleasure, and you've made my job a lot easier. You're very efficient. And the projects that we have undertaken with Jackie and the board and with Shana, go to highlight them. Belmont Avenue buffer landscaping and storm drain maintenance. It's been going on for a long time, and we are going to finish it shortly. And I think the board made a very wise decision in having the plan looked at by Bayland. And they gave an excellent report, and that extra step was well worth it. We also worked with Dr. Feather and the village on planting the trees on Belmont Avenue to sort of do some screening for whatever might happen at their parking lot in the years to come. We also did some work on the West Kirk Street median strip, and that is going to be moving forward and completed very shortly. And our ongoing work is looking at the parks and green spaces throughout the village and trying to give feedback to Jackie in a way that it can be addressed. And we know that the parks and green spaces, it's not our backyard. I mean, it is in a way, but we can't always think it's going to look like our yard because they have a lot of green space to cover. And we prioritize, and I think we've done a good job of trying to find that balance. So I look forward for another year in working with Jackie. And in closing, I do want to say that Carol Coffin was a longtime member of the Parks and Green Spaces Committee. In fact, I think she was one of the original. I don't know the exact date, Shana. I don't know if anyone knows the exact date when her time joined, but I had the pleasure of working with her up until this last year. So I do want to close with it's volunteers like Carol who make the committee successful. And as they age out, I think it's always useful to remember their contribution for many years that they were part of the committee. So I wanted to end with that. And thank you all.
Thank you. We have a report from the election supervisors, Mary Sheehan.
Thanks, Alyssa. My name is Mary Sheehan. I'm the chair of the village's election supervisors. Earlier in this year, we confirmed that there were 3 board members whose terms were ending in June of this year, beginning in February and then through the first 2 weeks of March. We notified village residents of these vacancies and the requirements to become a candidate for the board. We used the crier, village emails, and the village website. This information included a short summary of the financial disclosure procedures in order to assure potential candidates that this step is really not unduly onerous. It also contained very specific instructions as to how interested residents could obtain further information and all forms and documents necessary to file a certificate of candidacy and financial disclosure statement. The supervisors have recently discussed additional means of communicating with residents in the future about procedures to become a candidate, including using the village listserv, a little more than we have in the past. Following the March 15th deadline for candidates to submit their certificates of candidacy and financial disclosure statements, the supervisors confirmed that there were 3 candidates for the 3 open positions on the board. All 3 candidates had submitted the required certificates of candidacy and financial disclosure statements by the March 15th deadline, and these had been reviewed and endorsed as duly filed by the Village Ethics Commission. The 3 candidates were the 3 incumbents, Saul Goodman, Alyssa Leonard, and Nancy Waters. Because the number of candidates and the number of vacancies were equal, there is no need for an election to be held in May. Pursuant to the procedures specified in the village charter, The election supervisors hereby declare that the following 3 candidates are elected to the Chevy Chase Village Board of Managers: Saul Goodman, Alyssa Leonard, and Nancy Waters. The election supervisors for this year, in addition to myself, are Bob Brokesmith, Joanne Kairos, Maggie Marcus, and Nancy Wilkinson. And all of us are very much indebted to Shayna, who is, of course, a joy to work with and a great help to our group as we fulfill our mission. So thanks to you, Shayna.
Thank you. So let's see, do we have a public discussion or do I close the meeting for the,
Public discussion first and then the call to close.
okay. And is the public discussion about our budget?
Just an open call. If there's
Open call. Anybody want to chime in? Hearing none. I think I need a motion to,
There's a draft motion sheet at your places.
yeah.
If anyone wants to make the
Yeah.
motion.
I move to adjourn the annual meeting to enter into a business meeting of the Board of Managers for the purpose of adopting the budget and tax levy ordinance for fiscal year 2027.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And we need another motion, right?
Do we go straight into the next motion?
Yeah.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 040226 as drafted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the budget passed. Are we at the end of our page?
One more motion to go.
One more motion, Gary.
This is,
Can I interrupt one thing? I'm a broken record on this, but just an announcement, if I may, that there is a candidates forum tomorrow night for the Democratic District 1 County Council candidates. It's at the Jane Lawton Center in the town of Chevy Chase, not far from here, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. So as you've heard repeated mentions of zoning issues and other environmental issues and county budget issues mentioned here tonight, folks who are interested, please come out to the Jane Lawton Center tomorrow, 7 to 8:30 p.m. because the county council candidates, whoever is elected ultimately in the fall, will play an important role in resolving those issues. They'll also play an important role in the Friendship Heights sector plan, as Mr. Halprin mentioned earlier. There's another forum on Sunday for the county executive candidates. All 5 Democratic candidates for county executive have confirmed they'll be there. And then yet another open house next Tuesday night, also at the Lawton Center, for the at-large council candidates and Republican county executive candidates. So a lot going on, but the first thing to take into account is the event tomorrow night, 7 to 8:30 at the Lawton Center. Would love to see folks there. It will be live streamed by Montgomery Municipal Cable, but even better, it's tough to impress these candidates with turnout from Chevy Chase. We want to remind them that, yeah, we're here, we're District 1, and we're important to their future and their electoral prospects. So thanks, sorry to interrupt the motion, and I know the board has heard me talk about this so long. There's one more week to go.
Thank you for the reminder on that. And Gary has an important
yes,
motion.
this has become something of a specialty of mine. I move to adjourn the meeting.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor? Aye, thank you. Thanks for coming, everybody. Great to see you all. All right, so I'll make sure that